Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime, here at my next Korra Avatar news update video. This one's just going to be a really quick one. Mike DiMartino, obviously his new book, Rebel Genius, is out now. Specifically on the release date, the physical book is out in America. Digitally, like Kindle, that sort of stuff, it's out everywhere. I have it digitally. Obviously, I'm from Europe, so the book isn't actually out until November. Physical copy here. I will be reading it over the next day or two, so expect a review of the first book of Rebel Genius in the next couple of days. I realistically will try to get it out tomorrow, but realistically it's probably more like Thursday or Friday when I would expect to be finished it and get the review up. But just be aware that I will be reviewing that book. But the main piece of news I want to talk about here is that obviously there's going to be a lot of interviews with Mike DiMartino because of that, because his new book is coming out. And he did a Reddit AMA yesterday, some news articles have come out, and of course Korra graphic novels, Korra comics, whatever you want to call them, have been brought up. And that is the thing I want to talk about here, the mentions that we've had about that. With regards to Reddit, he mentioned them a few times because a lot of people in their comments, questions, had a subsection of their question referencing Avatar comics. It was kind of weird actually, a lot of people wrote essays to ask their question. But he mentioned them a few times, and then once or twice he did go into a little bit more depth. The main one that I saw was that he said this, but I knew exactly where I wanted to start. Moments after the finale ends with Korra and Asami entering the spirit world. So I think this was in reference to struggles with knowing where to start with the Korra comics, writing a comic for the first time. And that's what he says. So that's interesting in that the preview image that we had when the Korra comics were first announced was this. It was kind of Korra and Asami walking out of the spirit world. But this seems to very much confirm almost that this book is going to start in the spirit world, them going into the spirit world, and we're going to see what happens from there. The only other thing he really reiterated a bunch of times was that for sure, 100%, these comics will address the Korra-Asami relationship. It will develop it in a much bigger way than the show, and seem to hint that, say it very clearly, with the comics, they do not have the same limitations that they did on TV, so they can really go into this relationship. So that's, I think, something everyone wanted to hear. Obviously, Nickelodeon ultimately weren't as strict as we thought, and because of that they kind of held back on what they did in the show, but they still could have done actually more in the show. So it's interesting now to know that with Dark Horse and these comics, they don't really have to hold back at all. So it literally will just be treated along the lines of Aang Katara in the comics, Suki Sokka, where anytime they have a kind of reunion moment, they kind of just go to each other, hug, maybe a kiss. That sort of stuff is maybe what we can expect to happen with Korra and Asami's relationship. Now, the only criticism I would have of this would be that Korra Asami is the only thing he really mentioned about this book. And I understand that that's definitely a way to market this, because when Korra came to an end, the bigger news piece with the book 4 finale was Korra Asami over the fact that Korra had just come to an end. So I get why you would market this book as the Korra-Asami comics, and then you do cover other stuff. I'm just a little bit worried right now, only knowing the most basic of information about this book, that, no real mention of Mako, Bolin, basically any other characters outside of Korra and Asami. And that's a fear that I think a lot of people are having, that maybe this book is going to be a little too focused on that relationship, when it should be an aspect for sure, but we should be dealing with other stuff as well. But the main thing I want to talk about here is the Entertainment Weekly article where they interview Mike DiMartino about Rebel Genius, and he mentions that it feels like the show's over, but it's not really over because we're doing Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. graphic novels for Dark Horse. I'm working on the scripts for that, referencing the Korra graphic novel right now. And then they asked the question, what can you tease about the Korra graphic novel? And he says it's going to take place right after the finale, so it's focusing on Korra and Asami's relationship as a new threat emerges. It's kind of like the aftermath, dealing with the new portal in the city and all the evacuees coming back to find their homes wiped out because of the portal. And Korra has to figure out how to find a new balance in the city with all that stuff going on. So if you've seen any of my kind of preview analysis videos covering what I think the Korra comics will be about, focusing it around the spirit portal and what that has done to the world was the main thing I was thinking of. You know, Korra-Asami, of course, but plot-wise, it has to be about the portal in the city, and so I'm actually really pleased that that's becoming a focus. Now, he obviously isn't going into a lot of depth there. He seems to be suggesting it's going to be more of a thing where, you know, we're going to be more dealing with the fact that people, the initial kind of area that basically the portal forming kind of wiped out in the spirit wilds, like that, the people there will be the ones who kind of have the issue. I suppose the only like issue I have with that is that isn't the spirit portal where it was formed in the spirit wilds? So like this was a place that was already overrun by default with vines, and so the spirit portal forming there, okay, it's actually destroyed houses, but these people, would they not have already dealt with what they were dealing with? Because the spirit wilds have been there for a couple of years now. Obviously, it's a very kind of basic point he's making here, that we are going to deal with the aftermath of the portal. But for me, the bigger details with the portal are human-spirit relations. Are we okay with now having a portal right in the middle of such an important city where any spirit can come out of that portal? Any human can go into that portal, and we don't have a clue how they're going to police people going in and out, or if they even are. That's the sort of stuff that I'm talking about. And I assume that's what they mean, that Korra is going to have to figure out how to balance the idea of, like, humans and spirits need to work together, but they need to respect each other as well. Humans going into the spirit world and maybe annoying the spirit isn't a great thing, but equally so, spirits coming into the physical world and expecting it to be just their new place is not a good thing either. So I hope that's what they're going for. Now, it does also confirm a new threat emerges, so there's going to be some sort of a conflict here. Now, what does that mean? I would like it to be something spirit focused. I'd like that threat to be the threat of maybe spirits coming through and how to police the spirit portal. But if it's a more political thing, I'm not really sure. I'm struggling right now to think of another kind of Korra-esque villain like an Amon, Unalaq, Red Lotus, or Kuvira, that it's just some bender leader or something like that. I don't think that will be the case. I think it will be a more political thing, just like less a person and more like just something happening that is going to have an effect on things. But you know, it's interesting because this is the first update. This is the first update about the story of the Korra comics since last year, like almost exactly a year ago at this point. So this is interesting. Now, the one thing here is he hasn't mentioned anything about a release date, when it's coming, that sort of thing. Part of that may be because he knows that an announcement is coming. Part of it could be that this thing is delayed much more than we thought it was. And he really is still in the planning stages on this thing. I hope that is not the case. I hope we still get news at New York Comic Con that's positive, and it's not as far off as it seems to suggest. It is just a little worrying to see it be mentioned a little bit more, but we still don't really know much more. So yeah, the only hope I have here is just that this is potentially just, you know, this is the first real-time Mike really getting out there to promote things. Ask this question. He can't really just can't say anything about it. He says the most basic of basic ideas about it, knowing that the reveal is coming. So I wish he had maybe builds up to a hype thing of like New York Comic Con's where the full reveal is going to be proper information, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's basically the video. Gonna end it there. In the links in the description to my Twitter and Tumblr account if you want to follow me on social media. Also links there to my Patreon and PayPal donation link if you want to support my channel so I can make more videos, better videos. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.